apparently Diddy got questioned about the shit that's going on with, Keefy D.
I heard,
what are the
on the
odds?
streets, he lawyered up.
And 50 Cent said
yesterday.
50 might have got notified a little early because he was talking shit about it before it came out.
They
in the news.
say he lawyered up.
Your Honor, can we please roll the audio soundbite from Sean Combs in the year of 2000?
Y'all drop $1 million on your head, make sure the whole thing.
Apparently Diddy got questioned about the that's going on with No Kitty he lawyered up yesterday might have got notified a little early cuz he was talking about it before it came out the news. They say he lawyered up, Your Honor. Can we please roll the audio soundbite from Sean Combs in the year of 2000 drop $1 million on your head? Just last night, they finally nabbed Southside Compton's own KPD for the 1996 murder of Shakur Las Vegas. PD claimed they started digging up new info on them in 2018, all because KPD spilled the beans on TV shows and documentaries. This all started after that murder rap documentary dropped in 2015, and it had some secret tapes of KD from 2009, where he was like, yeah, I was in on that Tupac hit KP Demon, he didn't keep quiet about it. He went on all these TV shows and YouTube channels bragging to everyone about how he was the big shot behind Tupac's murder. So now that he's all locked up, we're all wondering what's going to happen next to old KPD. Here's the kicker though, and all this jaw flapping that KPD's been doing, he's starting to point fingers at Puff Daddy, that New York record exec, saying that Puff bankrolled the entire hit, even though no cash ever got to KPD's pockets. Puff Daddy had been talking about putting a price on people's heads back in 2000, and KPD connected the dots to that same amount that Tupac had on his head. All right, so here's the lowdown on this whole situation. KPD spilled the beans in secret 2009 confession tape. He was going on and on about how he's been tight with Puff Daddy since back in 1993. Apparently he got the hookup through his New York dude, Eric Zip Martin, who was the real shady character in the Big Apple known for pulling some slick moves. KVD even said they were in on some drug stuff together. KVD claimed that Zip introduced him to Puffy in the early 90s at a party in Santa Monica at this spot called Paradise 24, where on the street is Puff used to roll with KVD and Zip to local baseball games. And then they'd place bets on the games too. Zip would even get on the action as part of the bet. Now, here's where it starts to get wild. KVD said that Puffy borrowed his ride, which ended up in Usher's debut music video for Jam Call, Can You Get With It from 1994, but Usher apparently messed up KD's card during the video shoot, so Puff Daddy had to cough up some cash to get it fixed. Their connection rolled on throughout the 90s, bringing together some shady East Coast and West Coast groups. This all ties into the Southside Compton Crips in the dark underworld of New York that Puffy has ties to. In fact, there was a lawsuit back in 2003, and in it this guy Kirk Burrow, who used to run Puffy's Bad Boy Entertainment label, claimed that Puff set up something called the Enterprise. The lawsuit alleged that his crew was into some really serious stuff like murder and extortion, and this extortion thing might have been connected to how Bad Boy Entertainment got its funds, with some whispers about ties to New York gangs. Tupac even spilled the beans in a 96 interview, saying that Puff was getting squeezed by East Coast drug dealers. Now there's this theory that Puffy's label was getting its D from New York gangsters who eventually turned the tables and started squeezing Puffy and his artists. Some say the Bad Boy was supposedly bankrolled by the Black Mafia, and there are whispers about it being tied to the Detroit Black Mafia family. But there are other stories too, like folks claiming it was a different New York gang led by the infamous Walter King Tut Johnson, who supposedly funded Bad Boy from the get-go. Tupac, in a 9/5 interview with Monster Cody, even threw out the name a team as the gang that was in on it. The gang has ties to some heavy-hit New York gangsters like he and Jack and Jimmy Henchman. Apparently Henchman shelled out $2,500 to have Tupac shot multiple times by Dexter Isaac and King Tut in the lobby of a recording studio in New York back in 94, all the while Puffy and Henchmen were just chilling upstairs. This whole incident kicked off a huge beef between Tupac, Puffy, and Puffy's biggest artist at the time, Notorious B, who happened to be in the studio too. Puffy wasn't just in hot water with Tupac though. A year later in 1995, things got even messier. After some wild stuff went down in Atlanta, you see in a 2003 legal document in the case of Burrow versus Puffy, he claimed that Puffy gave the greenlight for the shooting of Suge Knight's friend and Blood Gang member Jake Robel Ake Big Jake at an after-party in Atlanta. Deputy C.J. Howard, who was providing off-duty security at the party, pointed fingers at Southside Compton Crips Corey Edward W. and Keffy D's nephew, Orlando Anderson, tagging them as suspects in the case. Key D, in his confession, spilled the beans that Puffy was tossing tickets to his shows to the Southside Compton Crips whenever he was performing in California. It seems like he was trying to get some extra protection from Suge Knight's Bloods, so in October F-1995 Suge Knight came to Tupac's rescue, bailing him out of prison and getting him signed to Death Row Records, with both Suge Knight and Tupac harboring some serious grudges against Puff and Bad Boy Records. Things were bound to get messy, according to Keffy D. In December of 1995, Tupac and Suge Knight reportedly locked up the Bad Boy Associated producer Mark Anthony Bell in a room and roughed him up to force him to spill the beans about Puffy's family's address in California. Ikes. Here's where it gets even crazier. After a concert at the Anaheim Coliseum, Puffy apparently brought the Southside Compton Crips back to a hotel room for a party. Zip was there too, and Katie claimed that this is where he first heard talk of what and Tupac and Ange Knight sipped under Lil C. An artist from Biggie Group Junior Mafia backed up this story, confirming that the Southside Compton Crips were indeed at that December 95 concert in Anaheim. Fast forward to March 96. The Soul Train Music Awards went down at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles. Puffy and Biggie were there ready to hit the stage. Tupac and Suge Knight were also in attendance, with Suge rolling deep, having about 30 Bloods dressed in PI Funk shirts representing the Pyrus set their plan to snatch the Bad Boy artist off the stage. But Key D, who was handling security at the event, got wind to this scheme, and he put a stop to it. Temper started flaring when the two crews crossed paths at the event. Puffy's bodyguard, John D., claimed that after this, Puffy said he didn't care if Pac, Biggie, or Suge Knight met their makers. Something had to change in the summer of 96 after Tupac dropped that fiery diss track, hit him up targeting Puff and Biggie. Puff, he supposedly met with Key D at the Green Black's Deli in Los Angeles. Rumor has it that a cool $1 million was on Tupac and Suge Knight's heads. After that, in 1997, police reports from a confidential informant suggested that Puffy had allegedly ordered a hit on Tupac and Suge Knight, and he may have linked up with the Southside Compton Crips for this. According to Key D, he and Eric Zip Martin made separate trips to Las Vegas on September 6, 1996. They were joined by fellow Crips Orlando Anderson, Terrence Brown, and Deandra Smith, who drove in a white Cadillac rented from a Compton car rental company registered under Terrence Brown's mother-in-law's name. Their supposed official reason for hitting up Vegas to catch the Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand. Funny thing, though, they didn't even have tickets to the fight, so they watched it from the MGM Grand lobby bar. Meanwhile, Tupac, Shnae, Neen, Ite, and the Death Row crew, along with some Blood Gang members, were also heading to Las Vegas. The Mike Tyson fight was part of a charity event tied to a nightclub called Club 662, where they were raising funds for a Las Vegas Metro cop. Tupac had to do some community service act to stay out of jail, so he was involved in this event. Things started to get dicey after the fight when Suge Knight's blood associate Trayvon Lane pointed out Orlando Anderson. Trayvon had a previous run-in with Orlando after Crips reportedly tried to snatch the Death Row chain off Tron's neck, thanks to a rumor that Puffy had put a bounty on these chains. Trayvon Lane then tipped off Tupac and Suge Knight about Orlando Anderson's presence. This led to Tupac being the first to confront and attack Orlando with shite, and the Bloods following suit. Key D, while chilling with Zip at a restaurant, got the scoop on what happened to Orlando Anderson, and according to Key D, Zip, who allegedly knew about this $1 million bounty, told him that it was the perfect opportunity to go for it. And Key D's initial recorded confession, he claimed that the Crips didn't pack any weapons for their trip to Las Vegas. Instead, they supposedly got a Glock from Eric Zip Martin to carry out the hit. A confidential witness stated that Zip Martin told the Crips that he had the firepower they needed, and everyone seemed to be on the same page that Tupac and Esh Knight would be at the Club 662. Key D, in his confession, recalled Zip's parting words to him about the perfect timing for the $1 million hit. Key had some Crips hopped in a van and made their way to Club 662, while Orlando Ander and the other two Crips took the white Cadillac. After waiting at Club 662 for about 20 minutes, KD said they left, and he got into the Cadillac. They drove to a liquor store, and 3 hours had passed since the initial confrontation with Orlando Anderson after leaving the liquor store and searching for a BMW that Suge Knight and Tupac were in. They eventually spot. Dim on Flamingo Road and Cobalt Lane female fans were shouting at Tupac, which helped identify the car. Yaki Gaddafi, Tupac's group artist, who was in the car behind the BMW, noted that the driver of the Cadillac was wearing a white cap, and according to Keffi D, that driver was Terrence Brown. Key D was seen in a photo with the Crips wearing a white cap. Keffi also claimed that as they approached, they looked into the window.